Hi there, my name's Oisín Lunny. I help great people, companies and organisations tell their best stories through podcasts, through events and through digital experiences like the wonderful Next.io Spotlight. And today we are going to be shining the powerful and illuminating spotlight of Next.io on the area, the state of CRM marketing, which is a hugely important topic. So I'm delighted to be joined by a true pioneer and an expert in the field. Welcome to the Next.io Spotlight, Pini Yakuel, the CEO and founder of Optimove.
Hey, Oisín, great to be here today and a pleasure to be talking to you.
Fantastic. Great to see you. So listen, I had a look at your LinkedIn the other day. I like to keep tabs on, what great people are doing. And you made this very resonant post. Now, it was about your experience with an airline. And the reason it resonated with me is because I've been doing a lot of house renovation over the past few years. I've been buying a ton of stuff from the same shop, cement mixers, bags of cement, tiny packets of screws, power tools, blah, blah, blah. And every time I buy anything, I get exactly the same email. And it says, "Hello, Oisín, thank you for buying this tiny bag of screws. Your opinion is really important to us. We really want to know what you felt about this tiny bag of screws. I just don't believe them anymore because I get the same thing every time and it's just beginning to annoy me." And I saw your post about an airline and it really resonated. So I think it kind of sets the scene. Tell us about your experience with this airline.
For sure. Essentially, I think what these two examples demonstrate is how kind of like difficult it is to do it right, meaning kind of like delighting customers and talking to them in a personalized manner, and how companies are still antiquated and they have a lot of work to do. We'll talk more about that. But in my example, I fly with the Israeli airline El Al most of the time, as I'm based in Israel. And typically, and I fly a lot. I fly like 3 times a quarter, sometimes for a week, sometimes for 2 days, mostly on business. And somebody over there decided that it's really important to get customer feedback, which is great. They're right. It is important to get customer feedback. So now from that moment on, things start to go awry because they're not thinking about my experience, just the fact that they want feedback. And here's what happened. So when I'm in the airport, I go to the duty free. 15 minutes later or an hour later, they want feedback on my experience on the duty free. Then I go to the lounge. They want feedback on my experience in the lounge. Then I board the plane. I land. They want feedback on my experience on the flight. And you're seeing basically a few silo departments. Each department is running basically its own show, but there's one customer, there's one Pini. And then I'm forced to see 3 or 4 different feedback requests at the same time. Or in a span of a few hours, and it's always through email or SMS or both, and that's the one thing they're saying, right? And not only that, in the past 2 years, I've been getting it all the time, and they don't notice that I'm not responding to those feedback requests, right? They can just stop it after a few times. They see that I'm not interested. They're not changing it, and they're not sending me anything else, right? Valuable messages about my frequent flyer card, my status of my points. What can I get? Hey, why don't you fly for the weekend with the missus to Madrid with all your points? Nothing like that, right? It's always feedback. And this all stems from kind of like mechanic and let's call it robotic type of marketing, which is innately rule-based, and it's kind of like a jack in a box, right? There's one trigger, right? You hit a button and it just pops. Please give me your feedback, right? So that's what happened to me, and obviously it happens across quite a few industries. I think I'm happy to say that the gaming industry is better at that because many of them use Optimove, but not just kidding, But essentially, it is something that maybe not to that level of severity, but it is something that exists, and we can talk about it some more. But yeah, that was my example. And I wrote about it, and it got like a lot of response. And actually, the people from the airline actually called me the next day.
Excellent.
I tagged the CEO of the airline, so they actually called me.
Very good. I like that. Well, I hope they're going to be listening to you about evolving their marketing and feedback strategy a bit. The thing about a jack in a box is maybe it surprises you the first time, maybe it's funny, but getting that like many times a day, that's just going to get on your nerves to no end. But you mentioned that a lot of iGaming companies are already using Optimove, and I noticed recently there was a great bit of feedback online that over half of the EGR Power 50, which I'm sure everyone on this call knows about or should know about, over half of these companies are already using Optimove. So I think this is, a great validation for how effective your technology is.
It obviously took us time. It wasn't in a day, but yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, so I was going to say, you're obviously a veteran of the industry. You really, know what you're doing here personally and as a company. What is your take on the state of CRM marketing from where you're sitting right now?
So I think, my take, and it's something that I wrote about in, this year. It's the first time ever that we've done this practice of an end of letter to shareholders, following the likes of Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos. So over there, we thought about a lot and had a section of the state of CRM marketing. And I think, we're starting to see for the first time that people are listening and they are curious and they understand that there needs to be something better than the example that we just gave. Yeah. And especially with AI kind of like becoming more and more prevalent, and people are seeing the potential and the power of AI for the first time, probably in the last year, mostly. With Gen AI and things like that. So they see that the magic is real and how it can happen and what can it do, because every person has a chance to experience it themselves with language or images. And essentially, we're seeing kind of like this shift, which is something that we've always championed as a business and as practitioners. We're seeing this shift from what we call rule-based marketing. So if you think about how brands operate and how marketing departments operate, usually this feedback campaign or this feedback message that you and I got, this is something that was produced, right? So there was a marketing team somewhere, and they said, it started from ideation, right? Somebody had an idea, that idea got momentum and people agreed, or the boss agreed to do it. They need to go out to produce it, right? They need to generate the content. How is that message going to be designed? What's going to be written there? Through what messages or channels are we going to be distributing that message? When, on what cadences, like to who, like who's going to get it? All of those questions, and it becomes a production endeavor. And it's not such an easy production that takes time. And because it's a production endeavor, what brands have been doing most of the time is focusing on getting it out the door. You just want to produce it, fire it, and make sure it gets out the door, as painless as possible, right? So can I design it faster? Can I basically, get the copyright, get the imagery right, the studio work. But then you ask the question, what happens when you have many of those? So let's say you start producing a lot of these, and with marketing automation, that has been the state of marketing. Let's say, it started around 10 years ago or 12 years ago, when you can start to automate those things, just like our friends at the airline actually automated that feedback, because I'm always getting it. I'm sure there's no like a room with lots of people doing it manually, right? It's automated. Yeah. So it's automated, and then you have this one thing automated, but then you start producing more and more things, right? You want to talk to your customers when they're new customers and tell them a few things about what they can do with your brand. You want to talk to them when they buy something for the first time, when they make their first wager. You want to talk to them about new content that you have. You may have just plugged in, whatever, a live dealer or something like that you never had before, and now you want to let them know. You want to find the right people to tell them about that. So you start to produce more and more of these campaigns, these journeys, right? Like these message journeys that basically would talk to customers. And nobody ever thought, people do think about it. It's just kind of like, hurts your head a little bit to think about it. So you just think, okay, we produced it, we're going to fire it out. Then we're looking at the results, right? So how many people clicked it? How many people opened it? But if you think about it from the individual customer perspective, they may have been getting 3 things during one day, different things that talking about completely different things. Hey, have you tried our new live dealer? Oops, don't go. We miss you. We haven't seen you for a long time. happy birthday.
Yes.
No. Because
No.
think about you, Ocean, as one client.
Yeah.
There may have been a day like that for you as a player of, some kind of a brand, let's say the UK.
Yeah.
And that's mostly that. And each one of those productions, each one of those journeys or campaign is being measured autonomously. No, sorry, not autonomously, but in its own silo. So
Yeah.
you look at the birthday campaign and you're saying, oh, great. I see good results. Some people made a deposit. We gave them 50% matchup, and some of them made a deposit after the birthday campaign.
Yeah.
And you look at so you're saying it works, but you're not looking at the experience of Ocean as a customer as a whole.
Yeah.
And they kind of like a better way to do it, instead of essentially saying, let's create this rule-based journey that the marketer is going to say, do this, wait 2 days. If after 2 days this happened, do that. If that didn't happen, do this. So you can envision this type of a flow chart with rigid rules saying what's going to happen. And that doesn't work, because there's one flow chart, there's another flow chart, and another flow chart, and another flow chart, and those start to collide, and they don't talk to one another. And even within a flow chart, if me as Pini, I cannot think about all the possible permutations and all the possible things that will happen to you, Ocean, in your journey as a client.
Yeah.
Combinatorically, it explodes. So this approach of the linear, rule-based journey mapping or journey building doesn't work. Basically, it doesn't work.
But like
it works when you go to. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, but the big question here is, what's the alternative? It's like, what's the alternative to all of these rules? How do you make it work?
Right. So we've established the problem, right? And I think when you go from 0 to 1, so maybe you're a new brand, you got nothing, you just want to set up a journey and you just want to say welcome to new clients, that's fine. Of course you need to start with the first few campaigns and start to talk to your customers. That's okay. But when you start to mature your program, the alternative is you don't think about it like a journey. You think that is rule-based. We call it kind of like an AI mapped journey. So you turn to AI and you say, how are we going to create the optimal collaboration between the human marketer that's got all the ideas, that can ask the good questions, that can actually provide the prompts if we talk about Gen AI. So a prompt is all of a sudden an important word. Between that and between the machine that can do all the optimization and data crunching and analysis and looking at historical data and, looking at what happened in the past at far greater volumes than a human can. So the answer to that is, I still want the marketer to provide ideas. We're not at the state that kind of like the AI is going to come up with a new idea for a matchup bonus. It can look at previous types of campaigns and people did do matchup fine. So you can get references of what people do, but to come up with something new that's relevant for your brand and your business, you still need human creativity. And when people kind of like come up with more and more ideas, you basically start to line up the ideas and you tell all the ideas for campaigns. Each one of you come as a closed set, right? You're an idea. There's a group of people that you're after. So if you want to talk about electricity, in your case, maybe people that purchased cement mixers in the last week. There's a group of people you're after, or people who have a birthday in the last week, or people that just made their first purchase in this. Oh, I have a recommendation model that tells me there's a group of people who are interested in a live dealer. So I got a lot of segments, and there's kind of like a list of ideas, and people are eligible. So different customers are eligible to different ideas. So me as a customer, I may be eligible on a given day to, going back to the horrific example before, to a birthday campaign, a live dealer campaign, and oh my God, we miss you campaign, right? So I may be eligible to all three, but now what I need is so a good example is to call it like air traffic control in airports. I need air traffic control. I need the tower to look at everything that's going on and say, hey, for Ocean, only talk about the live dealer. Don't say we miss you. Don't talk about birthday. For Ocean specifically, the live dealer is the campaign that will probably engage Ocean in the best possible way.
Yeah.
So the air traffic control is the one that chooses out of all of the things that you're eligible to, what you're going to get. And this will happen in real time and on an hourly basis and a daily basis. So marketers, push more journeys, push more campaigns, push more ideas, put them on the mix, right? Air traffic control will organize them for you, and it will always optimize and choose the best message for every customer at every time.
I love it. AI traffic control. You got silo smashing. You got putting yourself in the shoes of the customer. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you know, AI is so much of a buzzword in the industry. Are you seeing actual results from this? Does it really help?
It does really help because, number one, let's start with the basics. With the examples that we both gave, we're not actually fighting a very high bar at the beginning, right? So first thing what we need to do is prevent this idiocy from occurring. Right? So let's say you use AI just to do that. You're already like, oh my God, no more. Just like in medicals, in med school, that they said first do no harm, right?
Yes.
So
right.
First thing we do is we stop that. Now the question is, after you start kind of like relevant marketing, in many cases it's very easy because different customers respond to different messages differently. And basically, when you look at historical data, in many cases, the response or the answer to the question, like who should get what, becomes very straightforward. It's just a question of it's just a question of assembling that AI traffic control. Once you have that, it's not necessarily solving the most difficult problem. It's just a question of having all the machinery and all the infrastructure to get this thing built, which is what we have done in the past 10 years. So we've built it for a long time. But does AI work? Yeah, that's it's an interesting question. But I think we see it walk more and more every day, right? I'm blown away by ChatGPT every day.
Absolutely. Well, I think the EGR Power 50, the fact that over half of those companies are already using Optimove is a great validation of the fact that you have been working on this for a long time. You're pioneers. You made it work. You have that air traffic control and people can just plug into it. Now, I think this is going to be huge moving forward, and folks like Gartner agree strongly. In fact, I have a little statistic here that 4 out of 5 multi-channel marketing hub buyers are going to embrace generative customer engagement through solutions that use Gen AI for journey orchestration, personalization, analytics, and prescriptive optimization and operations. Now, this is going to happen by 2026. And this is just around the corner. So if I'm a marketer, I'm not one of those half of the Power 50. I'm not using Optimove yet. How would you fix my FOMO? What can I do to get on board? How can I make this work?
So I think so. First thing is I don't think you should operate from FOMO. I think you should operate from that's number one. Like take a deep breath and relax, and then get to work. Start to do some research. See where you're at, what's your current state. I think many times what we do in businesses is we manage the process of evolution. And if you manage that process of evolution well, I'm not going to jump from even an Optimove, many years in the past, we didn't have the muscle to work with very large enterprise. So from this EGR Power 50, I think for our first 5 years, we've had maybe 1 or 2 of them. We didn't have a lot. And as we matured and we grew as a company and we became, just kind of like more experienced ourselves, I am myself now, I have some white hair, on edges here and the beard. So, so we gained the muscle, we gained the experience, and then we do it. So I think, but mostly, a lot of the Gen AI stuff is focusing on content. It's focusing on language, and it's focusing on imagery and studio work. So I think agencies all over the world are kind of like, they're buzzing like crazy because even copywriters, people like that, or technical writers. The thing about technical writers are completely it's completely wiped out, right? It's something that AI does very, very well. I think in our field specifically, Gen AI will probably go into to the email template itself, to the mobile marketing, to the push template, to the text message template, start to basically auto generate copy for those messages. Some ideas that we're toying with is there's a lot of research about that different people respond differently to different types of writing. So when I'm sending you my live dealer message that I want to get you to engage with and maybe try it out, what type of language am I going to use? Am I going to use like a super formal, a super casual, let's say New York type, hey, Ocean, how's it going? Check it out. This is our blah, 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 blah. Or am I like, hello, Ocean, top of the morning to you,
Yes.
things like that. So research shows that different people respond in a different way to those types of languages, right? So I'm more of a casual type of a person. Other people, it's something emotional. So think about that. Think about the brand coming up with a message, but then you automatically get 5 different flavors of style in how you write. And I start to train the machine on each one of my customers on the type of style that they respond to better. So now all of a sudden, I got some new data on you, and I know that you love formal language. So that's it. All of the messages I'm going to be sending is going to be formal languages. So these are. It's all based on like. There's research that shows like it actually works, and people do respond, but haven't tried it yet. But it's in our roadmap.
Amazing. Well, every time we catch up, every time, you look at this area of generative AI, future tech, it feels like it's the tip of the iceberg. And I think you've opened up a very interesting new perspective for our lucky Next IO community here today. So we're coming close to the end of our time. I've got one final question, and that is, where and how can people find out more? Can they get in touch with you? Where would you send them for more information?
Yeah, for sure. People obviously can find us on Optimove.com. They can message me on Pini_Y at Optimove.com.
Great.
And most importantly, as we're getting closer to our annual customer event, it's going to be in London this year for the first time ever on March 20th to 21st. There's a mini site, so if you can Google Optimove Connect, just Google Optimove Connect, and then there's a mini site with all the information. So we'd love to see some of you in our annual event. We're going to have amazing speakers and keynotes and panels and the best and brightest of the industry.
Absolutely. And folks watching, if you haven't been to Optimove Connect already, I can highly recommend it. Just search for Optimove Connect, visit Optimove.com and drop Pini a line for more information. So listen, thank you so much for joining us on the Next IO Spotlight. Pini Yakuel, the CEO and founder of Optimove.
Thank you, Ocean. It was a pleasure.
Folks tuning in, don't forget to connect, spread the word about Optimove, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining.